Welcome once again, friends. So, again, with teams and groups, it has always been stated, and you all agree with me, that in order for us to make a team effective and to make it vibrant and to stand the test of time, resilient, and be productive enough, there is always the need for us to clearly distinguish who does what. Don't leave it open ended so that anyone at all thinks he can do anything at all. We should always clearly segregate duties, specify roles and responsibilities, so that I know that I am typically involved in bank reconciliation and you are dealing with cash account balancing or receivables. We all have to do something specific, okay? So there is the role theory. The role theory says that let us assign specific, distinct roles and responsibilities for each different class of member within the group. Okay, you will normally find this in the job descriptions given to that person. So you know you're doing something specific. Okay, sometimes it can even be informal, where after your job description can be generic, but once you are on board, we tell you that you are focusing only on this dimension, and this one is also focusing on only one dimension. There are several terms associated with the role theory. So we have what we term the role ambiguity, when I'm not too sure what I'm doing. Okay, so clearly let me know what I'm supposed to do. Clearly stated roles and responsibilities. We have role conflicts. Does my role interfere with somebody's role? Yes, they may be distinct, but if we are all working on the same receivables account, for example, am I only um, working on the local receivables and someone is working on the international receivables, or we are all put into the same pool? Okay, that could lead to clashes. Okay, so usually we want to be sure that you are dealing with one specific item and I'm also dealing with a specific item. We are told that, for example, a company finance officer who uncovers fraud by senior management may feel a conflict between the roles of professional confidentiality and honest citizenship. So if you are not too careful specifying who does what, I'll see something and I'll not be too sure where I stand. Okay. Again, ethics comes into play. And if you are not careful, you will compromise your ethics in the wake or in the quest of discharging your own duties and responsibilities. Role incompatibility is also important. Make sure you assign the role to the person based on his competency and on his skills. Today, we always find it, especially in the academic setting, where lecturers come in to teach things they don't even understand. So you see somebody standing in front of the class teaching you something he personally has never learnt or doesn't understand. But because there is the need or there is a gap, we just put the person there. Can you cover this class for us? It's bad. Okay. It's not good. It leads to inefficiencies and it leads to some poor outputs. And then role science is also one thing that comes under the role theory, where we're looking at visible indicators of the role. Okay, the signs, the indicators, okay? So the style of dress, the uniforms are clear signs. So you see a military person in his uniform, police, hospital occupation, their uniforms, okay? And then we have the role set. It describes the people who support the lead person in the major role. So for example, the clerk, the junior barristers, they will perform the role behind the senior barristers' role. So they are supporting, okay? And then we have the role behaviors as well. So where we look at certain types of behaviors associated with the role. So a crown prince cannot behave like the senior um, person. Cannot behave anyhow. Let me put it that way, because his lifestyle will bring a shame to the crown if he's not careful. So behaviors come in. Okay. Now we're going to move into high performing teams, and we'll look at the proposal given by Vale. Vale gave us some clear-cut rules in terms of how can we make it perform, how can we make the organization perform. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we'll be looking at high performance in terms of teams. Okay, this will be the second part. I'll keep it brief, and then we will move on to the third part of the videos. All right. So how do we make teams perform to a very high standard? Well, identify that high performance teams could always be seen as human systems who are doing better than other systems. So we see the accounting team is doing better than the other marketing team because these guys are living up to standard, killing themselves, killing in quotes, okay, and performing up and above, okay. Now he said there are common characteristics that are associated with those who perform above par. One, there is always clarity of purpose and near-term objectives. I know what I'm doing. I know I need to achieve this in the short term and this towards the longer or medium term. Commitment to the purposes is also important. So everybody buys into the shared goal and idea. I'm not working as if I am a god on my own. No, I work in line with the shared belief systems. They are all focused on the task. Let us achieve it. I work with KPMG and I love the high performance. You are all doing something. At the end of the day, if there is a praise, it goes to the team. And I love audit so much. You see, auditors, even if one person goes to the field and does the work, he comes back and writes a report that we identified. Because even though he alone will go to the field and do the work, he comes back, someone will review. The quality partner will look at it, the engagement partner will look at it, the senior partner, okay, everybody looks at it, okay. Commitment and focus on the task. Strong leadership at the top is very key. Clear, strong leadership. So you get somebody who is guiding you, who is leading you, and who is making sure you toe in line with the shared beliefs. And again, high levels of creativity within the team and generation of new ways of doing things is very important. Once again, outside my time with KPMG, you see people are always going out and seeking ideas and sharing with the team. So we had one belief, one core value in KPMG out of the 7 core beliefs. It says we seek the facts and share the insights or provide the insight. We seek the facts and share the insights with our colleagues. So everybody is trying to find new ways. Today, I am able to do a lot of Excel stuff, not because I learned it in books, but because my colleagues taught me years back in KPMG. So it's very important. These are the characteristics of high performing teams. Okay. Now, let's move on and see team effectiveness. If you go through, you also see Peters and Waterman, they also mention successful teams, okay, and they identify some 5 elements, okay. They identified 5 elements of a successful team, okay. But I'll leave that one. You could look through. Some of them cut across this particular item we are coming to look at over here. So it says that in evaluating how the basis to evaluate a team will include one, the performance. Did we achieve our objectives? That's what will tell us whether the team did well or not. Are they functioning effectively or there are some conflicts? And are they all satisfied that they belong to that team, that society? If they are not satisfied, if you can conscientize them to work together or if you can reassign team members, it helps a lot. Teams should be rewarded collectively. So in my time with USAID, I got a lot of awards based on teamwork. So you see, this is awarded to Richard and Pamela and Obed and Kwesi. Why? Because they work together to ensure that this portfolio was managed effectively. When you reward teams collectively, what happens is that they tend to always work towards the team goal. We know that, man, if you work alone, you will be successful, yes, maybe, but working together helps you to achieve a better success rate. Now, again, we should reward them provided that there are distinct roles. Everyone knows what he's doing. There are performance targets and benchmarks assigned. There's some form of autonomy given to each person to work. And of course, there's some benchmark or some guidelines that will provide guidelines or which will influence their performance. Okay. Yes, I'm autonomous, but still, if I need some help, I go and consult my senior colleague who comes to help me or my colleague who comes to help me. Again, we should reward them provided that there's some maturity in the group, some stability in the group, some cooperation and interdependence. I don't work alone as if I'm a god, as if I know everything. I don't behave as if I am the wisest person in the group. Maturity should cut across. Stability, cooperation, and interdependence is very important. There could be group conflict as usual. We are all coming from different backgrounds, okay? We could have intergroup conflict and intra-group conflict. So within the same group, we could have confrontations. Again, you could see the marketing guys having a conflict with the accounting guys. Inter, but intra within, okay? But when these things happen, it leads to lower productivity. It leads to dissatisfaction. Somebody will leave the workplace if you're not careful. Okay. So we are told that managers could either, in terms of managing this group conflict, could confront. Okay, they could use confrontation where parties would try and negotiate and settle out the differences. Okay. We could also use third party consultant, people who are outside of these teams, and they'll come in to resolve the group meetings. And we also have intergroup training. Okay, let's have some retreats, some workshops. Let's go and see how best we can solve these differences. Back in USAID, we always have annual retreats. So we go, the accounting department will have their issues. We, the financial analysts, will have our issues. The payment guys will have their issues. And we come together in terms of this retreat, 3 day offsite, 4 days offsite. Normally it's 3 days maximum. And then we go to brainstorm and see how we can make the entire regional financial management office effective. All right. And then we could have member rotation, swap them if possible. And I saw this mostly in the audit section where we could swap people from one audit team to the other team. It helps a lot. And then subordinate goals that require cooperation between departments. So it also happened usually in USAID. I saw this where we set goals that will cut across everyone. So I post a transaction as a financial analyst. It doesn't get sanctioned unless it gets to the accounting department for them to sanction it. Accounting department needs some information. They cannot obtain it easily. They have to bring it to me as a financial analyst to vouch it or go to the payment guys. Always, I'll say that in terms of group conflict, if possible, friends, use an internal means to resolve it. Okay, if possible, use an internal means to resolve it. It helps a lot. Okay, now if you are using the old book, if you are using the 2020 edition, you will find a question on page 262. Okay, now on page 262, and if you're using the 2019, it's on page 248. If you're using the 2021 edition, you find it on page 264. Okay, content doesn't change, the same scenario. Okay, where you are asked to prepare a paper containing discussion points for the finance manager, and it should cover policies that are likely to affect behaviors in these of teams. Okay, so it is on the LMN company, which undertakes some road construction and maintenance. Very good case. Okay, of course, you'll find it's a TYU, okay, test your understanding, and you'll find the solution online in the text, okay, and you could use it. All right, friends, conflict exists even in our groups in schoolwork. We put ourselves in groups. People will not contribute. People will still come back and want to gain the full marks. These are forms of conflict that occur. But how do we resolve these? And how do we make teams effective? Okay, that's what we learned over. Look at Vales 1 and Peter Waterman and Peters. Okay, Waterman and Peter. I didn't touch on Waterman and Peters scenario here, but of course, you have the text and you could always refer to it. Okay, you can find it on 259 if you use the current one. So Peters and Waterman's position is also clearly stated. All right, friends, I'll see you in the next bit. Bye for now.